Welcome back to the channel, where we dive into the real stories behind your favorite Chateau YouTubers. Today, we're exploring a unique and fascinating partnership between two of the biggest names in the Chateau restoration world, Stephanie Jarvis, the vivacious host of the Château Diaries, and Dan Preston, the multi-talented force behind Escape to Rural France. Their connection has spanned years, projects, and YouTube channels. But what's the real story behind their relationship? Let's find out. To understand the dynamic between Stephanie and Dan, we first need to look at who they are as individuals. Stephanie Jarvis rose to internet fame as the co-owner and star of the Château Diaries, a YouTube channel that chronicles life inside Château de Lalande, a 16th-century chateau in central France. With her background in opera and theater, Stephanie brings a flair for the dramatic, a love of French history, and a clear passion for restoring beautiful architecture. Her channel mixes day-in-the-life vlogs, restoration updates, and whimsical parties. As of now, she's built a loyal audience of hundreds of thousands and is one of the most recognizable figures in the Chateau YouTube space. She's also known for her entrepreneurial savvy, creating revenue from YouTube ads, Patreon supporters, merchandise, and even Chateau stays. But like every entrepreneur, she didn't build her vision alone. Enter Dan Preston, known online as Dan the Gardener, first appeared on the Château Diaries as a regular helper and friend of the Lalande crew, but Dan wasn't just some guy with a shovel. Before his YouTube fame, Dan worked in gardening, landscaping, and even as a professional chef. Over time, his skills in stonemasonry, roofing, and building became evident, and his calm, measured personality made him a fan favorite. Eventually, Dan spun off his own YouTube channel, Escape to Rural France, which documents his restoration of the Château de Chaumont, a grand, partially ruined property that he purchased with hopes of bringing it back to life. The channel quickly gained traction thanks to his hands-on skills and authentic presentation style, very different from Stephanie's theatrical flair, yet complementary in many ways. Part 3: How they met. Dan and Stephanie's relationship began at Château de Lalande, where Dan was initially brought in as a gardener and groundskeeper. But he wasn't just trimming hedges, he was building terraces, cutting stone, repairing roofs, and stepping in on DIY projects all around the property. Stephanie often praised Dan's work ethic and his ability to solve problems on the fly. In many early episodes, you could see the mutual respect between them. He wasn't just an employee, he was part of the Chateau family. Fans quickly noticed the chemistry between the two, not romantic, but something even rarer on YouTube, a genuine creative partnership. They joked, debated, planned, and sometimes disagreed on camera, but always with an undertone of camaraderie and trust. And as Dan became more involved at Lalande, Stephanie's channel benefited. Viewership rose. Projects accelerated. The Lalande dream expanded, but as Dan grew more skilled and popular, a natural evolution occurred, one that led him down a different path. In a bold move, Dan bought Château de Chaumont, a massive property in need of significant restoration. It was both an opportunity and a risk, but Dan's vision was clear. He wanted to create something of his own, from scratch. Stephanie supported him. In fact, she was one of the first people to visit the new chateau, expressing excitement and pride in Dan's decision. On her channel, she shared footage of Chaumont and described it as Dan's incredible adventure. While some viewers speculated that Dan was leaving Lalande, the reality seemed far more nuanced. He still returned to help out at Lalande from time to time, even after launching Escape to Rural France. But things had shifted. Dan was now a content creator in his own right, with his own audience, goals, and renovation headaches. And his videos began to reflect a different vibe. Less whimsical, more grounded. Less champagne, more chimney repair. Still, both creators seemed to respect each other's paths. Stephanie continued to mention Dan in her vlogs. While Dan occasionally referenced the Lalande days in his own episodes, the two were no longer daily collaborators, but the foundation of their partnership remained strong. Let's talk business. One reason the Stephanie-Dan relationship is worth analyzing is because it highlights something powerful: how collaborative content can mutually boost creators without formal contracts or drama. Stephanie's early support of Dan likely helped him attract subscribers. Her large audience was introduced to him through frequent appearances, which made his eventual channel launch more successful. Meanwhile, Dan's skill and dependability elevated the quality of the Château Diaries during his time there, offering more action-packed renovation content to balance the lifestyle and storytelling segments. It was a mutually beneficial collaboration, classic grow-together energy. Even after Dan left Lalande full-time, there was still crossover. Stephanie sometimes visited Chaumont, and Dan occasionally popped up in Lalande videos. From a monetization standpoint, both benefited. Stephanie expanded her content universe, while Dan gained visibility, credibility, and eventually YouTube partner status, monetizing his own views and branching out into merchant memberships. Today, both channels thrive. And while their interaction has lessened, the smart collaboration strategy they modeled remains a blueprint for aspiring Chateau YouTubers. It's not just about renovating walls, it's about building networks. Now for the big question, are Stephanie and Dan still friends? The short answer appears to be yes, though their collaborations are now less frequent. While some fans speculated there may have been a falling out due to Dan's departure, neither party has made any negative comments about the other. In fact, in various videos and comments, they've both spoken positively about their shared past. Dan has mentioned that he's incredibly busy with his own chateau, and that's understandable. Restoring a crumbling estate takes full-time energy, especially when you're doing much of the work yourself, filming and editing content, and running a YouTube channel. Stephanie, meanwhile, has expanded her world with volunteers, friends, and new projects. Her Château Diaries series now features a rotating cast of new faces and guests, and she continues to travel and host themed events, but the mutual respect between them remains visible, sometimes in small ways, like a shout-out, a visit, or a flashback clip. Their connection may no longer be front and center, but it helped define a key era in both of their YouTube journeys. They may have taken different roads, but they started on the same path, and that history doesn't disappear. Beyond YouTube fame and French chateaus, the Stephanie Dan story teaches us something about creative collaboration and personal growth. They began as colleagues, turned into friends, and eventually became peers with their own creative empires, and crucially, they showed that collaboration doesn't have to mean codependence. That it's possible to support someone else's journey without losing your own voice. In today's creator economy, where clout chasing and drama often dominate the headlines, their approach feels refreshingly mature. No scandals, no call-out videos, just two people helping each other rise, and then stepping into their own lanes with grace. It also shows that relationships change, and that's okay. Whether you're building a business, a brand, or a literal chateau, you need people who challenge and support you. Sometimes they stay forever. Sometimes they pass through for a season. What matters is how you treat them, and how you grow from the connection. So, whether you're Team Stephanie, Team Dan, or just a fan of beautiful old buildings, there's something valuable to take away from their story. So there you have it, the real story behind Stephanie Jarvis and Dan Preston's unique and evolving relationship. From gardening at Lalande to owning a chateau of his own, Dan's journey has been one of grit and vision. And from welcoming strangers into her home to running one of the most successful chateau channels online, Stephanie continues to inspire with her charisma and creativity. Their paths may have diverged, but their roots are intertwined. And in many ways, their individual successes reflect the strength of what they built together. If you enjoyed this deep dive, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from the world of Chateau YouTube. Let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Dan moment? Or which Château Diaries episode stands out to you the most? Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep dreaming big.